our last global data report showed, and we surveyed guys as well as women, and men were really pushing for more flexibility as well. That really plays into it. It's not just these are the enablers and barriers for women, but these are the enablers and barriers for all of your teams.
Welcome to The Fearless Foodie, the podcast that gets honest about what it really takes to thrive in food and retail. I'm Amy Wilkinson, coach, speaker and trusted partner to food industry teams with lived experience of the pace, pressure and politics that come with the job. Fearless Foodies cut through the fluff and get straight to what actually helps. And that's exactly what we're here to do. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Fearless Foodie. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by Laura Ryan. And Laura is a globally recognised expert in building networks. She is like a super networker and driving transformational change across the agri-food sector. In 2023, she was named in the Grocers Power list for her leadership in the meat industry. Now with a portfolio career, she leads Laven Park, her consultancy business, helping organisations grow through strategic insight, connectivity and communications. As an executive coach, she equips leaders to navigate change and lead with impact. And Laura is also founder and global chair of Meat Business Women, aligned with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Darlington born and bred. This is something that I love about you. I love a northern lass. She champions women and girls to fulfil their potential and lead with confidence. Welcome, Laura.
Thanks so much, Amy. Absolutely delighted to be with you and really excited to have a half an hour of a chat. It's wonderful.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited as well because it's one of those things, isn't it, where we've kind of knew each other existed through the power of social media and our teams and stuff like that, but we hadn't actually met until we had a pre-call about this podcast. And then I was like, oh my God, she's amazing. We need to and there were so many things that we had in common. So I know this is going to be an amazing chat and I'm just going to call it out right now. Two coaches having a chat. We could go on forever, but we won't.
You're too dear residential. You never know.
Yeah. Tell me more about that and what else. But we'll get straight into it. So for people that don't know who you are and don't know anything about you yet, just tell us a bit about who you are and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so as you mentioned in the intro, thanks so much. I'm a northerner and a proud northerner and an urban northerner at that. I have no background in the food or agri industry and fell into the meat industry 25 years ago and absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And no 2 days are the same, the pace and the challenge. And that's really shaped who I am. And my values are always about helping people to be the best that they can be. So I stepped into a portfolio career about 8 years ago. I finished my corporate career as director of the Beef and Lamb Board for AHDB, and then consultancy came calling. Meat Business Women was getting bigger, so it's allowed me to leverage the network that I have in the meat industry and the wider food manufacturing, and to face into that around the challenges of how do we help people to find the careers that they want. Maybe they don't even know there's an amazing career here in the food industry. Hang on to them and get them to the top or to where they want to be in terms of their career.
Yeah. So you fell into it. How did you fall into it?
Total accident.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was a classic student that didn't really want to get a job. I had loads of part-time jobs, but I was like, oh, this career can wait. And that was back in the nice days, and this is how old I am, where you actually got paid to do a master's. Okay. Can you imagine that now? So I hung on and did a master's at uni in management, and then there was a job advertised, a knowledge transfer partnership, and they actually still exist where it gets young grads into some SMEs really, but have that wraparound graduate mission that an FMCG would have, so global travel, global budget and the support of the university. And it just happened to be the Teesside Uni where I did my master's. So I thought, oh, marketing meat, how hard can that be? That'll be easy. I'll give that a go. So I went and saw the owner of the business and he was great. And I just thought, this is fascinating. You say, yeah, we don't know really, well, he did know a bit about marketing, but we don't have a marketing department. And that was what my degree was in. Do you want to come in and be the marketing department and give it a go? And you've got this big budget for your personal development. So I thought, yeah, great. And
brilliant.
My mates still think it's very random what I do and probably still don't understand it.
No, it's so funny, isn't it? When you're like with people that don't work in the industry and you say stuff and they're like, what? That's an actual job and those things happen. But yeah. Well, and I think that, and even what you were saying just before about getting people into the industry, I think that's part of the problem. Like people don't know the jobs exist or, actually that they're quite exciting jobs to do.
You're totally right. And I think that particularly for the meat sector and wider, and I know it was a conversation you had with Bethan on a previous podcast about attracting talent. People don't see
Mm,
what exists. And there's that challenge of how do you get them in the first place? And then how do you hang on to them? Particularly, and you were chatting to Bethan about those entry level roles where people aren't necessarily seeing it as a career,
yeah.
then actually, how do you hang on to them and those amazing skills that they've got, nurture them and get them up the pipeline? And obviously, where I've played heavily in the last 10 years is particularly for women,
Hmm.
because the enablers and barriers for women are different than guys. There is some overlap, particularly on flexibility and caring responsibilities, but
Yeah.
we still under index on women. And if we can make sure we unlock some of that, we're going to have a better chance of labour, which is so important for us.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us about Meet Business Women then. So I've been a member for a couple of years and, well, more than a couple of years probably. And it's one of those things where some people, like I was saying to you when we'd had the pre-call, like some people just don't know it exists, which I can't believe, but don't also necessarily understand all the scope of it. So give us a run through of well, there's two things really. I want to know what made you set it up in the first place and then what it does. So whichever way round you
Yeah.
feels right for that.
Let's start in the beginning. So when I was back at HDB as the director for beef and lamb, I felt a bit of a fraud really, because not only was I the only woman in the room, I was the only woman in the room probably of my age at the time, and also I was the only person that didn't have an agricultural background.
Hmm.
And as I say, when I would come back up north to see my mates and they would say, marketing meat and what you do, they couldn't see the potential in it. And I
Mm.
realized actually there's so much great talent out there. Why don't we just network together? So all I was doing at that stage was wanting to find a network that I could speak to. I'd felt I'd networked as hard as I could in my little bubble and I wanted to go harder and further. So I reached out to a contact and I said, does she know of any group that exists? And she said no. And if there was a group that existed, I would have just happily gone along to that and then disappeared. I wasn't looking to set up this global juggernaut that it's become, but it didn't exist. So I thought, right, let's book a room in London, let's get a speaker, and let's just get 50 people together. And that was just over 10 years ago, to see how we could network together. And men are better
Mm.
networkers than women. That's not because women aren't great when we get there. It's because we have over-index and caring responsibilities, big
Yeah.
day jobs, and networking can feel like a nice to do rather than a business critical.
Yeah. And I think also a lot of women don't actually understand the benefits of it and that it is a big part of that progression. That's where you find your sponsors. That's where you find your next opportunity. And sometimes it just feels like I just don't have the energy to do that. But when you actually see the value in it, that's where it comes. Because I was always I hate networking. I don't want to do networking kind of person. And particularly since I've set up my own business, I've really started to realize how important your network is. And like you say, for men, I don't know why I said men like then. I'm not a man hater or anything. There was something in my voice then that sounded like, but like you say, that I think there's, it's those differences, isn't it? It's, breakfast networking isn't always appropriate if you are, you've got caring responsibilities, that sort of thing, isn't it? Or golf.
Yeah, you're totally right, and we still see some of that in the sector. And what I notice, particularly from women, is they feel I haven't got anything to give. It feels
Mm,
like tactical, and I'm like, it's not tactical. It's that long term piece. And for me, yeah, I love finding out what makes people tick and helping them to be the best they can be. But I'm not a natural networker.
mm,
I probably edge up the side of introvert. It tires me out. I have to work hard at it. So to be really open and authentic about that and say, look, I haven't got it cracked either, but let's work together,
yeah.
I think was really powerful. So that first meeting was really something that just galvanized this passion in the room of people that love the sector but want to connect more and continue. So through that journey, we started with a few networking events for the first couple of years, then professionalized, started to bring on corporate partners, and we've now got 55 corporate partners. And that ranges from Tesco, McDonald's, Cranswick, Hilton, big
Mm,
businesses and plenty of PLCs in there, which is phenomenal. And we do a chunk of stuff for those. So for the partners, we understand the data, and that's it's nice to do in the early days, but that's only going to get you so far.
mhm.
What's the data? How many women? What are the enablers and barriers? What do we need to do differently to attract talent and hang on to it? So that's really at the heart of everything that we do, and we invest heavily in that data. We also make sure that they have the tools that they need, corporate partners, then to use that data. So, say, for example, at the moment, we've got a Women in Ops program running because our data shows, to our earlier point, to get women past that first entry role
Hmm.
into first line leader is challenging. So, we've done a huge amount of work with KeyPack over the last year, actually, in Women in Ops role training, which we're
Hmm.
then going to roll out into more partners next year. And then for our members, they get mentoring, they get masterclasses, they get events, they get the network. So it's a twin approach really to make
Mm.
sure our corporate partners what that they have everything they need from an ESG agenda, and then we give the individuals what they need from a personal development agenda.
Yeah. And I think it's probably worth mentioning here for listeners, because I think this was something that I wasn't aware of. And I know when I talk to people now, like you probably did just start it out in meat, right? It was just the meat industry, but now it's much more the wider food industry. It's not just about, you don't have to work in meat to be a member.
Yeah, you're totally right. And this is something really exciting for us as Meat Businesswomen continues to grow. We're stepping outside of meat processing. And I suppose a couple of the names that are name checked there, Tesco's, Morrison's. Yes, we're working closely with their meat team, but with their wider business as well.
Mm.
And adjacent businesses, the likes of Greencore, IPL, Complete. These are businesses that they have real strong agendas to make sure they attract and retain the best possible talent. And
Hmm.
very little of actually what we're speaking about is about meat. It's about people, it's about the
Yeah.
skills, it's about the tools, the strategies, the data. And it's really exciting to speak to some of these food manufacturing businesses outside of primary meat processing that've got exactly the same
Mm.
challenges. They've seen that we've cracked it in meat or working really hard and
Yeah.
and we're the only real global player in this space, and they want to lift and shift some of that into their businesses, which we're really exciting to continue do more of into next year as well.
Yeah, yeah. And if you were going to say to people that are listening, what would be a tangible benefit that they would get straight away? Like it's almost, there's the corporate business partners, but if it's just, somebody listening and it's like, well, why would I pay to join?
Yeah, and you're totally right. Why would I pay to join? And I will answer your question. So the other thing
Yeah,
I
sure.
noticed, women in particular aren't great at putting their personal development up the list.
Yeah,
And I'm the same. It drops
yeah,
off to a Friday afternoon. You think, yeah, there's that course I should have watched or something.
yeah,
And
yeah,
again, because your diary's so full. So we make personal development easy, but the main thing that we have is our mentoring portal.
yeah.
And I have either been a mentor or a mentee or both. Being a member allows you to do that. It allows you to do it in a safe space with a peer group outside of your organization, but somebody that understands your language. And we
Mm.
work in an industry that does have its own language, both in meat and wider food manufacturing. So that mentoring allows us to do that. And then the other piece really is your ready-made network. As we've alluded to, networking is hard yards. You've got
Mm.
to spend the time on it. Whereas Meat Businesswomen, the network is already there. You can plug into it both virtually on our membership portal, but also at our events too. So it gives you that safe space to reach out to your peers, ask the questions, talk about the next step up as well. Where do you want to be in your career and have those sounding boards? Because that personal board is just absolutely fundamental to anyone in individual's progression. Meet Businesswomen gives that to them. And there's also a whole raft of events that we do on subject matter expertise. And we've got like 70 hours of learning, and that can be anything from MPD, technical, commercial, to make sure that they've got the tools that they need within the role that they're in.
Yeah, and I love that as well, because I know there's a lot of talk, isn't there, that we don't want to it's not about fixing women. Women aren't necessary. And it's not just, you've got to get better at yes, obviously these social, softer skills, the networking, all of that stuff matters, but actually really knowing your job and knowing the business and knowing what you do matters too. And actually spending the time on your personal development for that stuff. And you're providing a way of doing that, which I think is so important as well.
And it's really interesting, that our industry is a merry-go-round, isn't it? You bump
Mm.
into so many people,
Yeah.
you're maybe not seeing for a couple of years and everyone rotates, but having that space where everyone comes together. And it's interesting. I met someone that's been in Meat Businesswomen from the beginning, and she probably joined as a grad. She's now a director level, and she was talking about there's someone new coming into her business. And she met her at a Meat Businesswomen event 5 years ago, already knows her, already has that relationship. And just how easy then that is that you've got that already there and the foundations already exist. So it's hugely powerful, but like anything, you've got to lean into it and spend a bit of time.
Yes, yeah, yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? That we're not great at doing. So actually, you're cutting out a little bit of the hard work of like finding the right place to go. There's a lot of people there that are in the same industry, and like you say, and we know as we had that conversation as coaches, there's something about that shared language, isn't there? Like when we coach people that work in the food industry, it's a lot easier because you just get it. You're not having to explain yourself. And like we said, our friends all think we're a bit weird when we're like talking about something for Christmas next year. And they're like, what? We haven't even thought about this Christmas kind of thing.
You're totally right. I know. I just move the conversation on normally, let them talk about them.
Yeah. So Meet Business Women does all the networking stuff, but there's also been this. Tell us about this food business charter. I know about it. Fearless Foodies has signed it, but talk to us about the food business charter.
So we're really ambitious at Meet Business Women, and we've never wanted to be a talking shop. So one of the things that we did almost 2 years ago now, we brought about 12 CEOs together from our major partners and said to them, what do you want your legacy to be? What can we actually change and shift to make sure that the meat and food manufacturing industry is sustainable for the future? So there was 3 buckets of things that they want you to do. And the first bucket was a charter. How do we make sure we have a collective ambition to attract more women into the sector? And what should that ambition be? So the ambition, and we co-created that with industry. It's easy, we know it. It's all well and good if you just create a nice little document and put it out there and hope for the best. That doesn't work. You need to do the hard yards with industry, which we did do. And then in March of this year at the House of Lords, we launched the Food Business Charter. And that has an ambition of by 2035, 40% of people working in the meat and food manufacturing industry are women. That stat is currently 33.5%. So over the next 10 years, we've got a way to go. And by signing the charter, these businesses, of which we've now got over 50 signatories, are committing to do 2 things. They were committing to be accountable. So this is about making sure that they submit their data for a gender representation report. And then they're also committing to take action. So this is about having a senior lead on the at board level and exec level to make sure they're a sponsor for this. And then they're putting strategies and programs in place. We know every business starts from a different place. Some of the signatories have massive teams. The green cores of this world, are so well equipped in this area, whereas other businesses are a lot smaller and they don't have subject matter expertise. But it doesn't matter because we support with a toolkit each of these businesses a good, better, best approach so they can see, right, we're doing all these things, that's great, but actually we've got a gap here and we can move forward with it. So it was a massive piece of work for us as a small organisation to launch this, not only in London, but across our global partners as well, has been absolutely phenomenal. And it's our cements our step out of just food and into meat and
Yeah.
into wider food.
Yeah, yeah. And so for people listening, that is so they can go and find information on that. They can go and sign up to the charter, get the resources and the support. Yeah.
You're
Like that's
totally
live
right.
all the time.
Live all the time. So we are 10 months in now and the momentum continues. And it's like with these things, it's all well and good having this lovely launch. And it was a great day at the House of Lords. And we were very lucky that Manette Batters was our sponsor and keynote on the day. But you need to keep the momentum going. So we've had several, I guess, real important media moments across the year, including in the grocer. And then I was out to the United Nations in Geneva in August to present it to the global audience. And it's really interesting that even though we're a small organisation, boy, are we ambitious.
Yeah.
And making sure that that credibility is there is so important for us and our partners. So our relationship with the UN is really strong. So to go out there and talk about Sustainable Development Goals, 5 for gender equality, and then also talk to, I think there's about 15 different countries in the room about what the Food Business Charter is doing, just again keeps the momentum going. And the partners that have currently signed saying, yeah, this is really important. Let's get involved.
All right, time to give a quick shout out to the people making this podcast happen. These are the brilliant sponsors backing bold, fearless conversations like this one. Let's hear from them. Ever chased a test result at 5:59 p.m. on a Friday? Yeah, we've been there too. That's why we're proud to be partnered with IFP Labs, a lab network that actually gets what it's like to work in food. They support businesses across Europe with accredited testing for food, feed, swabs, water and more. And they do it with a quick turnaround, expert insight and genuinely reliable service. IFP Labs is a laboratory network made up of companies who we know and trust because they're already supporting the people behind the products you love. Check them out at ifp-labs.com and breathe a little easier next time you've got a product launch riding on that test report. If you're a woman working in food or retail and craving connection that isn't all small talk and job titles, come join Fearless Women Connect. Our free monthly sessions include lunch and learns with fresh ideas and friendly faces, plus Cuppa Connect, an informal chat inspired by the podcast, where we ditch the hierarchy and talk honestly about work and life. Sign up for free at the Fearless Foodies website. We'd love to see you there. And we're back. Let's dive right in. I mean, that's amazing. It's funny. I hadn't even met you at that point when I saw that you were at the UN, and I sort of had a feeling, because I'm like all about lifting other women up. I had this feeling of pride for you that I was like, oh my God, she's at the UN. Like, it's an amazing achievement, and you've done that in the space of 10 years. So I just want you to take a moment, Laura, to take a bit of credit for it.
Thank you. You're very I know we never reflect, do we? We just keep moving forward. And that was one of the, I guess, crossroads for Meet Business Women in 2019. I was at a smaller UN session there talking about, how great it is and what initiative. And they were so challenging, and rightly so, to what's your data? What are the enablers and barriers? This feels good, but how are you generating the metrics around it? And that's really what pivoted us to more that data point. And that allows us to have stronger, more meaningful conversations, predominantly because our industry is led by men, around data. And that lands so much better than talking about, well, it feels the right thing to do. That's only going to get you to a certain level. So the data's really helped.
It's a really good point, actually, because one of the things that I think, and I see this in like communication skills workshops and things that I do, we always talk about talking in the language of the people that you're trying to give the message to, not in your language. And, neither of us are into like making gender stereotypes and stuff, but actually that data-led, factual rather than that empathy-led feeling thing. It's a really great skill to know and understand that you've got to flex that based on your audience. And if the people in front of you are going to respond better to the data, then great. And actually the data matters, because how else are you going to track what you're doing? So, yeah.
Exactly that. And there's always that interest when you sit down with the CEO and say, look, this is the market average. This is where you're tracking. This is what your people are telling us. Are they telling you the same? There's so much interest in that.
Yeah.
And, you chat to senior leaders at the moment, and I was speaking to one a couple of weeks ago, and he said, Labour's number one of my challenges. And, that's the key of my strategy at the moment. So it's a great opportunity for us to lead into this. And I should also mention, Meet Business Women has a real chunk of guys involved as well, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Not just as male allies, which is really, really important, and our data shows that. There's no point just women talking to ourselves in a room, because you're never going to shift the dial. But also quite a large proportion of what we do is super transferable, regardless if you're a man or a woman, particularly on that personal development, mental toughness, resilience, all that stuff is just as relevant. So that's really benefited us, as well as some of our partners. Cranswick, for example, we have unlimited with them. So that means anyone in their organisation, man, woman, doesn't matter, non-binary, can join Meet Business Women.
Yeah, and I quite like that. And I had that discussion with a few. I've done some other stuff with some women's groups in other businesses and stuff. And exactly that. It's not limited to just women coming in, because if we're talking about inclusivity, then, and don't get me wrong, I think there's absolutely a place for times when there are women only spaces because of that feeling of safety and being able to say what you need to say. And we have it at Fearless Women Connect, that is it. We've kind of said no men allowed, because we want people to be, we want it to be a place where everybody is opening up. But actually, when you're having those bigger conversations about how we're going to change things, there needs to be diversity in the room to have those conversations, right? And have those different viewpoints, and for everybody to hear.
Totally right. And it was interesting, our last global data report showed, and we surveyed guys as well as women, and men were really pushing for more flexibility as well, because they're picking up, particularly on childcare, picking up quite a large chunk of that too, because you're probably juggling 2 careers, busy household. They want to be able to have that flex too. So that really plays into it. It's not just these are enablers and barriers for women, but these are enablers and barriers for all of your teams.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point that gets lost a lot of the time, is if we are really going to get to a place where there is, more equality, we need to make it easier for men to say, I've got to leave and pick up the kids, or, I need to work from home today, and that not be frowned upon. It needs to become accepted and be the norm. And, I just speak to more and more men that are that way. I was on a call just before this with somebody that was working from home because he needed to look after the kids. And it's refreshing that people, that might have happened in the past, but people didn't really talk about it, or they didn't mention it, or whatever. Like, oh, you've got to normalise it a little bit more and enable it so that it doesn't just feel like it's just for the women kind of thing.
You're right. And it's hugely empowering. In the last 2 years, I've been on a call with a real senior guy, and he was at home, sick child. Then the child appeared on screen, and there was no apology for it. It was great. It was just, this is the situation I'm in. I'm like, great. I said, do you want to do the call in the day? No, I'm fine. That's great. So it was great to see. And I thought,
Yeah.
that makes me feel better when I'm in that boat. So yeah, it's good. Good role modelling.
And that's a really good point, actually. I was going to say COVID helped us through that because, pre-COVID, that would have never been a thing. But I also think you're right, that modelling behaviour. And I was having a conversation with someone else about we have to be the change that we want to see. And if we want to see that change, men need to model behaviour as well as women. It doesn't need to just be women that are standing up and making the point. And my partner, obviously married to a feminist, he's very actively will make those statements at work. I've got to leave early to pick up, because it starts to normalise it.
Totally right. Totally agree.
Yeah. So what's next for Meet Business Women? I know you have other stuff in the pipeline at the moment.
Yeah, so it's a massive year for us. So every 3 years we do that global representation report, and this is that year. So we are in data collection phase at the moment, and data collection is open until the 20th of February. So what that's going to enable us to do is to see how much has the dial shifted from that 33.5% of the industry is women. What are the current enablers and barriers 3 years on? And not only industry that's meat processing, but wider food manufacturing as well, alluding to the fact that we're now dealing with other partners, which is really exciting. So we were able to have a baseline metric for there and compare the two. Is there any difference between a primary abattoir business and a food manufacturing business? If so, great. What are the synergies? What can we learn? And what are the key opportunities? So that is a massive piece of work for us, which we will launch around May time next year. And then we'll be back to the UN to presenting that to partners. And I guess the call to action there is any business, no matter if they're a partner of Meet Business Women or not, it doesn't matter. We would love for them to fill out our business survey. And for that, then they get a benchmark report. We'll do a confidential benchmark report for them to see how they're tracking against the competitive set. And it also allows all of the charter signatories to see where they are in terms of that good, better, best approach in terms of the food business charter. So really important time. For businesses, that's great. And then if you're listening to this and leading a business, then please do submit your data, and you can see all of the information request on meetbusinesswomen.org. But for individuals, the ask is just as passionate. And this is where we've alluded to about men, particularly filling in our survey last year. There's a survey for individuals working in the food industry to complete. And again, that's open until the 20th of Feb. And they can find that on our website. And it's just a 10-minute survey to find out how they're feeling at the minute. What's the sentiment? What's working well? What's not? Where's that inclusivity conversation going? And then that allows us to overlap the quant business data with the qualitative sentiment of industry. And it's, hugely important. So there's an ask there of if you happen to work in a big business, wherever you are, please fill it in. And if you're leading a business, please get your business to complete it.
Yeah. Okay, so we will make sure there is a link that goes out in the show notes and the social media posts so that people can do that easily. Because you're sometimes listening to these things, aren't when you're walking or walking the dog or whatever, and you think, oh, I'll do that, and you don't remember. So we'll make sure we put a link in so that people can bookmark it and remember to do it, put it on their to-do list.
Thank you so much. And that's the thing. The data is only as good. The report is only as good as the data that we get.
Yeah.
So it's a real push. And like anything, these organisations tend to leave it till the last day so you submit. So we've done it twice in the past. I'm always very sweaty palm the day before the deadline. I'm like, oh God, this is what we're going to do with this. And then lo and behold, the floodgates open. So it's all good. But take the pressure off me. Submit a week before.
I was going to say, if you're listening now and you've got a few weeks left, just get it in so Laura's not sitting on tenterhooks.
Thank you.
So, Laura, we've heard loads about Meet Business Women. I just want to hear a little bit about you. Like I sort of at the start, and you talked about, your career to date, but you've sort of, things are changing, aren't they? Even within Meet Business Women for you. So tell us about that.
You're totally right. Yeah, Meet Business Women, 10 years old, and the time was right to bring some new leadership into the business. Basically, because I'm the founder, I'm here, I'm the biggest ambassador, and don't worry, I'm not going anywhere, and you'll see me at the events and see me involved. But in terms of the next stage of growth, and particularly that step into food manufacturing, it's hugely important that we've got strong leadership that has a different skill set. So Joanna Parnell joined us as our MD in September, which is fantastic. And she's just bringing that really fresh insight. And it's something you've spoken about in a previous podcast about growth mindset, that there's a danger. I only know what I know, and have someone new come in with challenge, particularly around data, is so important for us, and has a skill set very different to ours. Is just energized us and allowed to make sure we are engaging and delivering to partners exactly what they need now, and then also for the next 5 years. So that's really exciting. But what that is doing, it's freeing up a bit of time for me to continue my coaching work, as you've alluded to at the beginning. We're two coaches. I'm just finishing my exec coaching qualification and thoroughly enjoying that, because I just like talking to people, as you can tell. So that's starting, and I've got a few clients, which is brilliant, but that'll be rolling into next year as part of my portfolio, as well as the market insight work that I already do for a few processes. So yeah, really exciting to do something a little bit different as well. And that's something I want to challenge myself with this time last year, that I wanted to continue to learn something new, because as we all know, you can blink and 5-10 years have passed and nothing's changed. And yes, I don't find change easy, and I've realised that over time, but change is a good thing and I need to embrace it. So yeah, it's been a steady process, but yeah, the change is right.
Well, I'm also I'm interested as a coach, I'm interested as a fellow founder. How have you found that kind of letting go thing? Your baby, I've seen you say that before, your first child was Meet Business Women.
Yeah, it was. I was really nervous about it, and the hiring process took a year to find the right person. And Joanna definitely is the right person. And you know what? If you find the right person, a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. And I even said to her a couple of weeks ago, I said, you could go harder here. You can push me harder, because I feel safe and comfortable. So yeah, it is my first baby. And when I thought about it, I thought, I'm in the driving seat and I'm getting the passenger seat. And then I want to get in the back seat, because I want the team to really motor with it and plug me in as and when they need me. But yeah, great would be the genuine answer. And I didn't know what that was going to feel like.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like you've not jumped into it. You've been considered in your approach of doing it. And also you found somebody that you can really trust, because without that trust, you wouldn't be feeling like that, would you? So it sounds like you've got a great relationship already, which is great.
You're totally right. Yeah. And that's the thing. Yeah. It's that and it must be hard for her, that balance of, I need to crack on and run the business, but also keep Laura so she's comfortable. So yeah, we've found that balance.
Yeah. And I didn't know before we spoke last time, when you said, I'm doing a coaching qualification, I was like, oh my God, because I would like the world to be coached, because it's just a superpower, isn't it? So are you enjoying that? Are you wanting to do more of that?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And you know what? And it's funny, you forced me into it in this conversation. It's that reflection piece that I've realised that people that I'm working with are really enjoying, because our industry is so fast paced. You very rarely get a chance to step back and talk about the journey you've been on, where you are now and where you want to get to. So actually just mapping out that simplistic piece, as well as maybe unlocking some knotty challenges here in the here and now, but that strategic view for people's careers, I've loved. So yeah, I've done a chunk of coaching hours this year, and then leaning into clients next year, which is great. And I've got a new one actually starting in a fortnight's time, and I'm really excited about it, because it's just seeing people unlock something in them, that they've not had the chance to do before. It's fantastic. And when you talk to senior leaders as well, and I think this is a bit of a hidden secret, really. You say, well, what's your view on coaching? When I started thinking about qualification a year or so ago, they're like, I've got a coach. I wouldn't be where I am without a coach. So when you get to that middle management and beyond, you need it. You need that sounding board.
Yeah, you absolutely do. And my mission, maybe we'll make it a mission together, Laura, is to make coaching more accessible to more people, because it used to be something that was only ever like execs and CEO level. And now it has started to filter down. But I would love the world to be coached, because I just think it's such a superpower. And like you say, so much power in that pause, that reflect, and actually being intentional with what you're doing in your career or in your life. We just live on a hamster wheel, don't we? And we forget sometimes that we have choice and we have agency to do something differently.
You're totally right. And just have that time to reflect on, do you know what? I'm in charge of my own life, when people often don't feel like they are because they've got so many competing priorities. It's just hugely empowering. And you see the aha in the face, like, wow, yeah, that's great.
When somebody says something to you and you go, is that true? And they're like, oh yeah, no, maybe it isn't. Yeah.
That challenge.
Yeah. Love it. Healthy, little prods gets people in the right direction, doesn't it? So thank you so much, Laura. It was really great to have you here today, because I just feel like a really interesting conversation for people early in their careers, hearing about, you can fall into the food industry and you can rise to the top. I know that 25 years of experience that you've got, but also like that passion and drive that you've had to set up Meet Business Women, develop it, and also, like you said, just have that power of that pause, notice and recognize when it's time to hand that over to somebody else and step away and keep pushing yourself forward. So really exciting times for you. And I know there's going to be people that want to get in touch with you. So what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Thank you. The best way is LinkedIn, probably. So I'm Laura V. Ryan on LinkedIn. You'll find me. So and there's also lavenpark.co.uk if you want to go to my website. But LinkedIn's easy. Message me on LinkedIn, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
We always hang out whenever I have anybody on. We're always like, we're just going to say LinkedIn, aren't we? Because we hang out, and it's usually where I've met most people as well.
Exactly. So easy.
Yeah, but this is the thing and the power of the network, isn't it? So people need to get in contact with you via LinkedIn, and they also need to, because this is time urgent, get themselves filling in that data so that you've got it for your gender report. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. And then they can read it and think, oh, this is really interesting. That was aligned with my views, or actually that's not aligned at all. So yeah, please do. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. And I'll see everybody else next time. That's a wrap on this episode of The Fearless Foodie. If it hit home, subscribe, leave a review and share it with someone who's ready for less fluff and more real talk. And if you're ready to build a bolder, braver, more brilliant team, come find me at fearlessfoodies.co.uk. Until next time, be bold, be brave, be fearless.